We are living in a pathological landscape of neural disorders caused by an excess of positivity. Our competitive, service-oriented societies are taking a toll on the late modern individual. In the Burnout Society, German philosopher Byung-Chul draws a connection between contemporary struggles with anxiety, depression, and burnout and the decades-long seismic shift in Western countries that, according to Hahn, transforms society from a traditionally centered on discipline into a culture of self-optimization. In our time, it seems as though the entire world lies upon before us. Unlike our parents and grandparents, who are told to do study, work, and not question anything, we are told that we are free to do anything and become anyone we want to be. At least, that is the appearance. According to Hahn, we live in a world where we are no longer told what we must or must not do. Instead, we live in a world where we can do everything. Yet, this very can, Hahn argues, is the reason why we are increasingly burnt out and exhausted. Instead of being forced by others to do things we do not want to do, we now force ourselves into order to constantly optimize. We must consciously improve, constantly compare ourselves to others, and strive to be better than everyone else. This mindset affects not only the individual, but society as a whole. According to Hahn, humanity is developing from a disciplinary society into an achievement society. This video explores how society has shifted from must to can and examines the consequences that result from this transformation. The disciplinary society is a social structure in which power functions primarily through external control. People are disciplined through rules, prohibitions, hierarchies, and surveillance. Institutions such as school, the military, factories, or prisons structure daily life, provide clear directives, and limit deviations. The fundamental principle is "you shall." Obedience to authority. The pressure comes from the outside, and the dominant feeling within such a system is coercion. In contrast, the Achievement Society, as Hahn describes it in the Burnout Society, largely eliminates overt external repression and replaces it with a system of self-optimization. Prohibitions are replaced by a positive imperative, "you can." The individual sees themselves as a project that must constantly be improved, enhanced, and realized. The pressure no longer primarily comes from outside, but from within. One becomes entrepreneur of oneself and voluntarily exploits oneself. Whereas in the disciplinary society primarily produce obedience, the achievement society produce exhaustion and burnout. In the disciplinary society, one was subject to authority. In the achievement society, one becomes the entrepreneur of oneself and at the same time one's own exploiter. Failure no longer appears as the result of external oppression, but as a personal inadequacy. This creates a permanent pressure to perform without clear limits. There's no external enough, only the internal feeling of never being enough. Philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau once said, "The freedom of man is not that he can do what he wants, but that he does not have to do what he does not want." Instead of being externally told what we are not allowed to do, we can now determine our own lives and make our own decisions about how we want to shape them. Extrinsic motivation has been replaced by intrinsic motivation. In the past, the must was interpreted negatively, whereas today the neoliberal paradigm of the can is often associated with positivity. We feel obligated to fully exploit our potential, to constantly optimize ourselves, and to seize every opportunity available to us. Instead of prohibitions, there are possibilities. You can achieve anything if you really want to. This internalized self-obligation creates a subtle pressure that is often more burdensome than the old external constraints because we hold ourselves responsible for our overload. Hahn emphasized that this shift from must to can is precisely the reason for the widespread exhaustion, burnout, and depression in modern society. While the must made us ill through exploitation, the can makes us ill through self-overexaggeration. We are no longer victims of external rules, but of our own demand to constantly perform. Through social media, we constantly compare ourselves to others. It is not only the compulsion to be better, but to be better than everyone else. As Hahn puts it, today everyone is an auto-exploited laborer in his or her own enterprise. People are now master and slave in one. Even class struggle has transformed into an inner struggle against oneself. If we fail or suffer from overload, we are told we simply have the wrong mindset and need to keep hustling. Giving up or failing are not considered options. Hustle culture refers to a work and lifestyle attitude centered around constant ambition, maximum productivity, and the relentless pursuit of success. People who follow this culture often measure the worth by performance, career, status, or financial success, and are willing to accept long working hours, constant availability, and continuous self-optimization. Restlessness is seen as virtue, while slowing down or resting is viewed as weakness or wasted time. We are obsessed with productivity and performance. We strive to become better and more successful, though what better actually means is rarely clearly defined. It is often not even about achieving something meaningful, but about creating the appearance of constantly hustling, working for the sake of working, looking successful rather than being successful. Yet, very few people achieve sustainable long-term results with this lifestyle. On the contrary, the costs are often higher than expected: chronic stress, restlessness, sleep disorders, and overwhelm. It is no longer about working for something meaningful. One works for the illusion for a better life, without even knowing whether one is working on the right thing. We see countless online motivation coaches and self-help gurus telling us that we simply need the right grind set and must work hard and long enough to achieve our goals. Many people end up deceiving themselves. Procrastination and action faking are common symptoms, doing unnecessary tasks while postponing the actual important work. Most people know such moments, suddenly feeling the urge to clean the entire apartment instead of sitting down to study for an exam. One complete side quest to create a sense of productivity without actually accomplishing the essential task. We cling to the illusion that our dreams will come true as long as we work hard enough. The American dream, for example, is the ideal that anyone in the United States, regardless of background or social status, can achieve a better life, prosperity, and personal happiness through hard work, initiative, and determination. Barack Obama's 2008 campaign slogan, "Yes, we can," illustrates this idea. It conveys the message that anyone can achieve anything through hard work if they truly want it. Become financially independent, escape the hamster wheel, quit your 9-to-5 job, escape the matrix. These are common motivational slogans. There is nothing wrong with setting goals and working toward them. Even I hope that with this YouTube channel, I will achieve a certain level of success and build a future in which I am more financially independent and no longer dependent on a conventional job. But please, do not misunderstand me. There is nothing wrong with working a regular 9-to-5 job or with wanting to break out and build a more independent life. Friends, family, hobbies, health, and leisure time should not be neglected. In the end, the question remains, how much performance can truly be sustained if we never allow ourselves breaks or time to relax? How meaningful is it to work on something that brings no joy and may even be harmful? Hahn describes toxic positivity as a societal attitude in which positivity, willingness to perform, optimism, self-realization, and permanent motivation no longer appears voluntary but becomes compulsory. The individual experiences themselves as entirely responsible for both success and failure. Toxic positivity is not simple optimism, but the exaggeration of positivity into an ideology. Negative feelings, doubt, weakness, or exhaustion have no legitimate place within this logic. Instead of criticizing societal structures, the pressure turns inward. For Hahn, this constant self-enhancement leads to exhaustion, depression, and burnout. Illness is no longer the expression for external repression, but of an excess of positivity, an overabundance of possibilities, demands, and self-expectations. Toxic positivity destroys their capacity for genuine rest and acceptance of limits. It makes the individual weary, trapped in an endless cycle of self-optimization. What initially appears motivating or supportive can in reality be harmful. When sadness, anger, fear, or disappointment are dismissed with phrases like "just think positive" or "other have it worse," individuals may feel invalidated in their emotions. They learn to suppress unpleasant feelings instead of processing them. Toxic positivity can also strain relationships. When people feel that their worries are not taken seriously, they withdraw and lose trust. Genuine connection arises through empathy and shared endurance of difficult emotions, not through their repression. Healthy positivity does not mean ignoring negative emotions, but maintaining hope while acknowledging pain and challenges. Only when all emotions are given space can genuine processing and personal growth occur. Burnout is no longer primarily a single medical illness, but a characteristic phenomenon of our neoliberal achievement society. Hahn defines burnout as a state of deep exhaustion, emotional emptiness, and inner depletion resulting from chronic self-overexertion. The individual does not fail because of an external enemy or repressive authority, but because of themselves, the internal compulsion to become ever more productive, efficient, and successful. This creates a form of violence that does not come from outside, rather one directs performance pressure against oneself. Hahn therefore understands burnout not as an isolated disease in the classical medical sense, but as a symptom of a societal structure. It expresses an era defined by positivity, constant activation, and limitless availability. Whereas earlier societies suffered from external enemies, the present suffer from an excess, overproduction, overcommunication, and overwhelm. Burnout signals that the system of permanent self-optimization has reached its limits. Exhaustion is not primarily personal failure or merely a psychological disorder, but a structural phenomenon. Burnout reveals that the logic of unlimited performance enhancement is destructive. It is, in a sense, the sign that the freedom of self-realization has turned into a compulsion of self-exploitation. As Hahn formulates it, we are too alive to die and too dead to live. In the end, the question is not only how much we can achieve, but what we are achieving for. If freedom means only extracting more and more from ourselves, constantly comparing ourselves, and never being satisfied, then it is no longer true freedom, but an invisible form of coercion. The Achievement Society promises unlimited possibilities while concealing the cost, exhaustion, self-doubt, and the feeling of never being enough. Perhaps true freedom lies not in the endless I can, but in the conscious I do not have to. Not every opportunity must be seized, not every potential fully exploited. A fulfilling life does not arise from permanent self-optimization, but from meaning, relationships, health, and moments of rest. If we learn to acknowledge limits, allow breaks, and stop measuring our worth solely by productivity, we withdraw from the cycle of self-overexertion. Success is then no longer measured by how much we achieve, but by how consciously we live. In a world of constant hustle, perhaps the most radical decision is to pause. Sometimes doing nothing is not a sign of weakness, but an act of self-determination.